Then there were a message saying that they solved the problem, so they put an extra car on to make up for time because queue had gone up. They sent some round and they got fully round. One had gone round and we could see over at Forside that it hadn't gone fully through, and it were on one section where it were rocking forwards and back. In the meantime, a carriage had gone up to top, which were full obviously of the people. They let that go. Next minute we're in queue, heard a big bang, people shouting. So obviously we didn't know, well, we thought something had happened, and then we started to go out, and then when we went back you could see the carriages were still swinging with them and momentum, and one carriage were just banged in with a person obviously.
All I saw was this guy, like, basically, we were like half hanging out at carriage with like blood pouring out of his head. Like, obviously his girlfriend, I take it, were next to him, were hysterical, and like a few people are not saying anything with her. You just,
like, the carriage had crumpled in where his feet were, as it come around on a sort of angle. He must have had the worst impact of it all.
You know, no medics came on scene. We were there like 10-15 minutes, no one were there. You know, just like, it was as though they didn't bother, to be honest.
Right. The person who's at the front of the rad, there were one guy who was like stood next to us, he was complaining, saying, we told you that that cart were there and you didn't do anything about it. And then another guy come up, and he, to be fair, he didn't see, he seemed to have a smile on his face. And these two guys were fair having to do with him, saying you should have said something, and he just said I did, and that rate.
We went walking around on other rides, we saw air ambulance turn up, didn't we? Like, what, half an hour later or something?
Say 20 minutes.
You know, paramedics got out and that, and there's no transport to take them to the ride. I think they'd have it a bit more under control. You know, no one were really screaming, were they?
Well, at first I heard help. When I walked round, I heard someone say help. But when I went round, I seen one guy, and it like he were holding his neck, but he was the guy who was like leaning out. There was blood coming from his face, but you could just see that from the angle of the car. Looked like his legs were just, I don't know.
Carriage were all mangled at the side of him. I'm surprised the actual carriage stayed on the track, to be fair. It was like on a tilt. Just before they crashed, it just done a loop. So it done the loop, that's when it's bumped into this carriage what no one's in.
Right.
So, you know, just heard one loud bang.
There were guys there who were in, like, say, shirt and tie, you'd think were sort of management, and that they didn't seem to have any rush on.
We'd been waiting on the ride, and it'd been shut for a while, and then we were just waiting in the queue, and we seen people were stuck at the top. And so we thought, well, the ride's going to be shut down, so we left, and we're just looking at the carriage that was stuck at the bottom of the loop that had failed to finish the circuit. And then all of a sudden we just heard the screams. The ride had obviously started again, but the people never had an idea that this carriage was stuck there. Then all of a sudden you just heard like this massive bang, and the carriages like hit each other. And one of the guys, obviously, either something's hit him or he's hit his face off something, and his face was burst open. And one of the guys in the front, you could tell he was in agony, like he was screaming for help. But the Alton Towers staff seemed pretty poor at responding. Like, it must have been, like, everybody's saying that it was after 2 the collision happened, but it was a good, I'd say between 1:45 and 1:10 it happened, because I then phoned people and let them know that I was fine, and so it happened then. But I'd say it took about 15-20 minutes for anybody to get back to them. On the side of the cage there was bits of metal hanging off and stuff that obviously was there to protect them, but I don't really think it had done much for them.